Hi, and welcome back to another how-to video brought to you by Tim Unscripted. And by the way, my recording controls are like way away from where I actually need them to be. So anyway, this is a great thing about working on two different screens. So OpenClaw experiments. And I wrapped up the last video with a bit of a disappointment for me, thinking that I could do a quick manual update and get the demo of my BuddyBot over here on my mobile phone running in Telegram up and running to show you a little bit of activity and whatnot. So shut that down, came back, did the thing I probably should have done from the start, which is I actually ran this script right from the OpenClaw website because, why not, right? Why not? Because the the other update process, which you can actually see here, was it finished in a little bit of a sketchy fashion. So now I'm going to walk you through how this update did conclude and subsequently do two things for you in the process of actually showing you BuddyBot at work via a few simple things, just to show you that, yes, Buddy actually works. Now, mind you, this is running on a laptop. This laptop does not have a dedicated GPU. It is actually running Quinn 3, which is a smaller model, 5.2 gigabyte model. I don't know, a few billion parameters, at least one or two. So I did a full reinstall via command line. It walked through doing all the things it didn't do when I tried to just do a manual update using the normal prompt. So it actually did quite a bit of work in the background. And you can see here, did the prep of the environment, did the install, even though it did detect, hey, by the way, you are actually running on the current version, which didn't make sense to me. It was a bit weird that it did detect that, hey, by the way, you're in your current version, so it was current version here. Didn't need to install because I'd already done that previously. The npm package was installed, OpenClaw installed. Okay, refreshing, reloading gateway, blah. So now we've got confirmation that, hey, by the way, this build in particular has been installed. And I like this. We ship faster than Apple ships calculator updates. Not a dig there. Not a dig at all. So, and then subsequently walk through all of the other steps that we didn't see happen in the previous video. So, and, I won't bore you with all the details here. And it even updated plugins, which was pretty cool. So subsequently, just did what it needed to do. That being said, let me pull up my phone because I did get confirmation. You can see that it only took 5 minutes to respond back to me, which is kind of funny. But I'm going to do one of these commands. So if you're familiar with the way that / commands work, say in a common or in an integrated desktop environment, be it VS Code or Windsurf or Cursor, what I'm doing here is not going to be unfamiliar to you. This is actually the way that agents generally interact. So suffices to say, we've got a number of different commands that we can choose from here, not the least of which, a kill. Now, notice it says kill the subagent, not the orchestrator agent. So steer, usage, restart. So I could remotely restart here. So what this window actually is it's the log. So what I wanted more than anything is to basically show you the actual transaction activity between what's going on here in Telegram, which is interfacing with the bot in a, a user interface versus doing it, via command line. So I'm going to just type in status, not that status. So I'm going to ask it to show me the current status. And there we go. This was quick. And you can see that line was this message. And let's try something else here. Let's do help so that you can get an idea. And there we have it, another transaction. So this was pretty quick. Let's see, let's do model. Or better yet, let's do models. So I think this is going to take a bit longer because there we go. Olama 2 has been selected. Not bad. And I think this might be the actual time interval. And model should show. Oh, seriously. Quinn 3. And Quinn 3 and Gemma 3. I've loaded Gemma 3 up previously. It might actually still be loaded. Anyway. But we know that Quinn 3 is active. So this kind of gives you an idea of how your interaction might be once you do all the necessary steps as defined here for getting it up and running. And notice here, this is nice. So you've got a bunch of different chat providers. I don't know how much you've dug into this. You can run it through WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord. I definitely mentioned Telegram and Discord. Slack, if your organization allows it, Signal, iMessage, Microsoft Teams, Nextcloud Talks, Nostro. Some of these I'm not familiar with. It doesn't mean that they're not legitimate chat providers. Here we've got all of our model providers. And so I don't know if this is an API connection. This is something that maybe you will want to take and look at for all these model providers yourself, whether you can run your subscription against it, your normal chat subscription, or whether you've got to actually spend some money and get the API going. So Hugging Face, open source models. So I, of course, for demo purposes, like running local models, you can see that you can go out to the providers themselves based on what they're marketing here. And then, of course, some of the productivity tools that you can tie into. I mentioned GitHub earlier. Obsidian, one of my colleagues runs quite a bit of work through Obsidian on this. I haven't done Trello or any of these others. GitHub is probably where I'm going to land this. Ties into Spotify, Shazam, your smart home integration, your tools and automation. So this is one of those powerful areas where, you've got several options. Now, mind you, I would never let OpenClaw organize my email. For me, that is verboten. That is forbidden. But maybe you're comfortable with it. I am not. I'd have to have some very tight guardrails. You've got your image generation and gift search, your socials, at least one social. I understand why, also your platforms. So you could be running it on Android if you wanted to. I'm running it on Linux. Also could be running it on Windows if I wanted to, or the Mac OS. So they've got a bit of capability out here that you can browse and research for yourself. For me, it was just about showing you what it might look like once you've got it up and running on a chat client. For me, it was a mobile chat client there in Telegram. There are always going to be things that you need to think through for what your intended use is with tools like this. Understand the downside risk of certain choices. Understand the vulnerabilities and the things that you're exposing yourself to. Tools like this are cool up until the point where they break something or they damage something. And there's been enough stories, and usually this is just the whole, if it bleeds, it leads negative news thing around OpenClaw to dissuade people. Now, I put on my blog at timdickey.com a few weeks back, there are also positive stories with this. So don't just fixate on the negative. Figure out what is going to work for you, put the necessary safeguards in place, be mindful of security, do the things that will protect you while you're using it for what it is, which is a productivity tool to help you get more done. So I'm definitely not throwing shade at OpenClaw. What I am throwing shade at is people who are using a gateway like OpenClaw irresponsibly. And, I've just shown you the tip of the iceberg in this particular video. What I don't want you to do is just run willy-nilly into setting up and configuring your own OpenClaw instance, have it log into your Spotify account and completely delete all your favorite playlists. That would be silly. Worse, if you had it tied up to Obsidian or GitHub, have it delete all your Obsidian notes or completely destroy a repo, thinking it was doing you a favor by refactoring things that you hadn't got around to refactoring. Any number of these things. Buyer beware, caveat emptor. It's serious when it comes to these tools. You just need to think through what this is going to do for you. Put together a process, do some safe to fail experiments, and then put it to work. That's the amazing thing about all of these, which is they're designed to help you do you better with less friction and get rid of some of your drudge work, some of your the stuff that you don't need to be doing. So don't don't set it up and unleash it on your inbox. Just don't, please. I don't want to be watching a video on YouTube or on other socials where you refer back to this video and say, Tim Dickey did it. Tim Dickey, no, I did not do it. I will not do it. It is not in my plan to do it. So if you blame me for putting OpenClaw on a box and allowing it access to your email, that is on you. And you're probably not my friend at that point. So suffice it to say, in this video, what I did cover, it was the pickup from a upgrade that didn't work to actually an upgrade that does work, to subsequently showing you in the logs how you can see transactional activity between your chat interface. In my case, it's Telegram to my BuddyBot. And, this is one of these where you actually got to see a little bit of back and forth between me and OpenClaw. So I hope that, like all of my videos, this kind of inspires you to go about doing your own experimentation and adaptation. I would strongly encourage you to, of course, read up on OpenClaw, do your own homework before you get into this, because, some things are pretty straightforward. This was definitely not straightforward. The bottom line is that because the what I would consider the normal upgrade path didn't work, I ended up having to do the command line from the original OpenClaw website upgrade, and it worked out a heck of a lot better the second time around. So, this is me investing time helping you learn from some of the things that are not working from my perspective so that you can do better. And on that note, this is a much shorter video than the two prior videos, and you have now finished another how-to video brought to you by Tim Undickey.